Today, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why the upcoming anime Ao Ashi is going to be one of the best sports anime adaptations to be made. But before that, for the folks who don't know, Ao Ashi is a soccer anime that was recently announced and centers on middle school student Ashito Ao, who has a strong talent in soccer. Due to his very straightforward personality, he causes a disaster that serves as a huge setback for him. Nevertheless, he catches the eye of Fukuda, a former pro footballer who played professionally overseas. Hence, Ashito gets an opportunity and leaves his rural area to travel to Tokyo and join Esperion FC's youth system. But coming from a poor family who are content to sacrifice to give him this shot, Ashito's goal is to go pro himself. A disclaimer I'd like to make is that all of the reasons are made under the assumption that a faithful adaptation to the manga will be conducted, and since the anime is yet to release, I will obviously be speaking from a perspective of a manga reader. Number 1. The essence of actual soccer. You read that right. As long as a faithful adaptation to the manga is done, Ao Ashi will be a much better soccer/football anime compared to our contemporary soccer anime Blue Lock, which announced an anime earlier. While definitely an enjoyable manga, it is more of a shonen and action series rather than a soccer-focused one. Number 2. It portrays the difficulties right. This is important. Setting the right level of difficulties gives the audience a realistic vibe, making it more appreciable. Basically, in the manga, our young Aoi does not have an easy life outside the fields. There aren't any mystical techniques or absurd power gaps which leads it to feel grounded. Ashito faces a lot of challenges, which is natural, but other anime rarely tend to show any of it, and if they do, it really is made to seem unrealistic. But in the case of Ao Ashi, you realize that the professional soccer league is not easy and being a professional player requires a lot of investment. Number 3. It is not bound by high school sports club cliches. If you haven't realized it already, this show will not focus on some backstreet school becoming champions and suddenly gaining superpowers, but rather, this portrays a more grounded story of athletes in a professional youth team playing tournament. The problem with the overused cliche of high school sports is that it's a predictable cycle. The MC is likely to be a prodigy or otherwise found to have some kind of supernatural talent. The team is formed with a core but incomplete lineup. The team then plays an initial game or two carried by the team's so-called innate talent, and after some time the other prodigy members, either people recovering from injuries or people needing to be coaxed back to the team after departures, are introduced. The team then takes part in a tournament, meets their rival and loses. We are then introduced to a training arc to apparently break the members' barriers, and finally, the team takes part in another tournament and wins, or they lose at a heavy cost but win the moral victory of being underdogs, and so the story goes. Unlike chasing for the dream of winning the ultimate tournament, Ao Ashi is less about the goal of winning the big one and more about the individual player's progress on the path to becoming a pro. This puts a unique spin on the story, leading to a more appreciable character growth and the overall team's growth. Unlike many other sports mangas, a lot of pages and chapters are devoted to personal progress rather than depicting a match. Number 4. Not an egoist. Initially, due to his talent and skills in soccer, Ashita was a selfish forward who wasn't the type of player to pass. But as he encounters players better than him, he realizes the value of not being selfish to score goals and further improves. Ao Ashi emphasizes mostly on football strategies rather than individual superpower skills. This makes it more realistic and can be appreciated by real football fans. The characters' on-field and off-field relationships are remarkably interviewed, and I feel like I'm really invested in the characters themselves and not just their progress on the field. Number 5. Actual football jargon. Like I mentioned earlier, Ao Ashi goes more in depth about strategies rather than individual skills. Ao Ashi focuses on a different element of sports that is rarely covered. It involves player psychology, growth, and the mental fortitude it takes to succeed in a professional feeder system. All this talk about strategy and psychology is something I personally really like. If you've never had a deep appreciation for tactical soccer but are interested, this series goes a long way to help bring you up to speed. And if you do love soccer and all its jargon, then you will really like what Ao Ashi has going for it. That's it. 5 reasons why this upcoming anime, if animated properly and remains faithful to its source material, will have the potential to become one of the best anime shows of the upcoming year, and maybe even one of the best sports anime ever made.